Have you ever been triggered by a coworker? Well, that is the topic that we are going to explore today at Tea Time with Chelsea. My tea of choice today is a beautiful green tea from Costco. 4 years ago, I was working as a senior marketing manager at a edtech startup. I was reviewing messaging points with my boss and the CEO of the company, and I thought the messaging points were garbage, so I was telling them they were garbage. And I wouldn't back off because the CEO honestly thought that they were brilliant messaging points, so I just kept poking the bear. And eventually the CEO raised his voice at me. Me being taught to stand up for yourself, I raised my voice back. Even if we disagreed, I wanted him to validate my points and understand that that was the stance that I was taking, but he couldn't even acknowledge it. So if I needed to get loud to prove my point, I was going to get loud. Needless to say, we definitely got off on the wrong foot. And for 7 months after that, he triggered the shit out of me. He, in my mind, was 100% of the problem. I was working with a coach at the time and I was listening to one of her trainings, and off the cuff, she said, "There is a reality where you don't get triggered." It was one of those remarks where it kind of feels like you're in a tornado afterwards. You just question everything that you thought you knew to be true leading up to that point. Could there possibly be a reality where I wasn't triggered by this CEO? So I put it to the test. At the time, I was developing a method called color mending therapy, and I used color mending therapy to figure out why I was so triggered by the CEO. In color mending, you take the sensations that you're feeling and you color them out using any shape and color onto a piece of paper. Then you use charts to see what emotions are represented by the colors that you chose to use and why you're feeling those emotions by the shapes you decided to use. What I learned from regularly coloring about the CEO was he was not 100% of the problem. I was able to see through color mending that I was unwilling to take responsibility for what I brought to that relationship. And then once I started to take responsibility for what I was bringing to the table, everything changed. So much so that I continued to work for that CEO for the next 3 years, and he never once triggered me again. I documented every step that I took to get to the place of not being triggered by the CEO and put it in a step-by-step guide for anyone to use. You can get this free guide by visiting the link in my profile. Happy coloring, my friends. Ooh, that is still not cool enough to drink.